A one, factual one-liner. NVIDIA is working with Apollo, BlackRock, Blackstone, Brookfield, Goldman Sachs, and KKR on financing platforms that could channel more than $500 billion into AI infrastructure, with NVIDIA potentially backstopping up to $125 billion of deals. Reuters angle: $500 billion to finance computers whose chief selling point is eventually making computers cheaper and more efficient. Hits: number so large it stops meaning anything. Satire line: optional. AI is finally becoming affordable. Step 1. Find $500 billion. Source: Reuters, Aug 10/11, 2026. Reuters. 2. Factual one-liner. The SEC said certain securities backed by data center operations will not be treated as asset-backed securities, easing securitization requirements as AI companies search for more ways to finance the data center boom. Reuters angle: AI needs so much money that the financing structures are now evolving almost as quickly as the models. Hits: institutional euphemism/regulatory definition doing extremely heavy lifting. Satire line: optional. Good news: your asset-backed security is no longer an asset-backed security because the SEC has reviewed the vibes. Source: Reuters, August 10, 2026. Reuters. 3. Factual one-liner. Trump media reported a $238.1 million second quarter loss on $1.7 million of revenue, compared with a $20 million loss a year earlier, with much of the new loss tied to unrealized declines in its cryptocurrency holdings. Reuters angle: the company lost roughly 140 times its quarterly revenue, while simultaneously expanding into crypto, data feeds, and other businesses. Hits: number so large relative to the underlying business that it stops meaning anything. Satire line: optional. The diversification strategy is working. The company now has several different ways to explain $238 million. Source: Reuters, August 11, 2026. Reuters. 4. Factual one-liner. Fashion outlets of Chicago in Rosemont reversed its newly introduced paid parking policy after backlash from shoppers, businesses, and the village mayor. The mall had reportedly been the only suburban Chicago mall charging every driver to park. Daily Herald angle: institution introduces solution. Customers explain problem. Institution pays/works to restore the situation it had before introducing the solution. Pure phaknews. Satire line: optional. After extensive market research, the mall discovered that shoppers enjoy not paying money before they begin spending money. Source: Daily Herald, August 10, 2026. Daily Herald. 5. Factual one-liner. Europe's electricity grid operators have lined up backup generation and balancing measures because Wednesday's solar eclipse will temporarily remove solar generation from a grid increasingly dependent on the sun. Reuters angle: civilization has successfully built a gigantic renewable energy network and is now preparing for its most ancient adversary, the moon getting in the way. Hits: institution spending resources to compensate for a perfectly predictable, natural event created by its changing energy mix. Satire line: optional. European energy officials confirm the moon has been identified as an intermittent renewable energy threat. Source: Reuters, August 11, 2026. Reuters. 6. Factual one-liner. Spain expects roughly 6 million people to travel into eclipse viewing areas while temperatures approach 40 degrees and wildfire danger remains severe, prompting deployment of more than 35,000 officers and 600 city official viewing zones. Roughly 200,000 hectares have already burned this year. Reuters angle. Humanity learned exactly when the moon will cross the sun decades in advance, and responded by scheduling 6 million people to stand in tinder-dry Spain during peak wildfire season. Hits, numbers that stop meaning anything, plus institutional logistics bordering on self-parody. Satire line, optional. Authorities have carefully organized 660 locations where 6 million people can safely stare upward while being repeatedly reminded not to ignite Spain. Source: Reuters, August 11, 2026. Reuters 7. Factual one-liner. McDonald's and other U.S. fast food chains found that increasingly aggressive discounts are no longer reliably bringing customers back. McDonald's global comparable sales rose just 1.3%, while several rivals offering value promotions still lost traffic or sales. Reuters angle. Companies responded to consumers saying restaurants are too expensive by discounting food, then discovered that consumers may now be avoiding restaurants for reasons extending beyond the coupon. Hits. Statistic technically improving, while the underlying customer situation remains worse. Satire line, optional. Fast food has entered the economic stage where cheap is now considered a premium feature. Source: Reuters, August 11, 2026. Reuters 8. Factual one-liner. Singapore raised its 2026 growth forecast to 4.5% by 0.5% after GDP grew 5.9% in the second quarter, largely on the AI boom, while simultaneously announcing another $900 million support package to help households and businesses absorb elevated energy costs. Reuters angle. Economy doing so well that government simultaneously upgrades the growth forecast and provides nearly $1 billion of relief for people dealing with the cost environment underneath it. Hits. Statistic improves while underlying conditions require intervention. Satire line, optional. The economy is booming so hard, the government has allocated another $900 million to help everyone experience it. Source: Reuters, August 11, 2026. Reuters 9. Factual one-liner. German state-owned utility. Uniper said first-half core profit nearly doubled, with Reuters describing the improvement as driven partly by the absence of a negative impact on its gas business that hurt the previous year. Reuters angle. Absence of negative impact is magnificent corporate language for the bad thing that happened last year didn't happen again. Hits. Euphemism doing heavy lifting plus statistic improving because comparison year was worse. Satire line, optional. Uniper announced a major new profit driver. Fewer things going wrong. Source: Reuters, August 11, 2026. Reuters 10. Factual one-liner. U.S. fuel entering. Cuba's newly opened private market is producing scenes including gasoline offered for about $38 a gallon from apartments and diesel marketed through Instagram. 6 decades after the revolution largely eliminated private enterprise in the sector. Reuters angle. 60 years of ideological economic history culminates in gasoline being sold through social media for $38 a gallon. Hits. Institutional reversal with an extremely well-documented historical paper trail plus absurd number. Satire line, optional. Capitalism has officially returned to Cuba and apparently started with surge pricing. Source: Reuters, August 11, 2026. Reuters.